I always believed family came first. That was until I met Amanda, the woman who would become my wife, and show me what real love meant. My parents and sister never approved of her from day one, but I never imagined they would force me to choose. Now, a year after cutting ties with my toxic family, I sit here watching my beautiful 6-month-old daughter Emily, sleeping peacefully in her crib. The sudden doorbell makes my heart race. Opening the door, I freeze at the sight of my mother's eyes red from crying. Before I tell you how my heart nearly stopped when I saw my mother on my doorstep after a year of silence, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if family drama resonates with you. My name is Karl, a 32-year-old software engineer from Boston. I was raised in what looked like the perfect family from the outside. My father, Harold, a successful corporate lawyer, my mother, Diana, who dedicated her life to maintaining our family image, and my older sister, Jessica, who followed in our father's footsteps. Growing up, I learned that appearances mattered above all else, and deviating from family expectations was simply not an option. That mindset followed me into adulthood. I dated women my parents approved of, pursued the career they suggested, and rarely questioned their judgment. That all changed on a rainy Tuesday morning when I stopped at a new coffee shop after my regular place was closed for renovations. She was working the counter, her smile lighting up the entire room. Amanda had this infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. When she misspelled my name as Karl with a C on my cup, I found myself correcting her, something I would never normally do. That small interaction turned into a 20-minute conversation once her break started, and before I left, I had her number and butterflies in my stomach for the first time in years. Amanda came from a completely different world than mine. She grew up in a small apartment with a single mother who worked 3 jobs to put her through college. She became a kindergarten teacher because she genuinely loved children despite the modest salary. Her warmth and authenticity drew me in immediately. We dated for 8 wonderful months before moving in together after the 1-year mark. Amanda made our apartment feel like a real home, something I had never experienced despite growing up in a mansion. With her, I felt safe to be myself, without judgment. When I decided to propose, I took her back to that same coffee shop. I had arranged for the barista to write, "Will you marry me, Amanda?" on her cup. The look of surprise and joy on her face when she realized what was happening is something I will never forget. She said yes before I could even get down on one knee, and the entire coffee shop erupted in applause. The happiness I felt was quickly dampened when we shared the news with my family. Their congratulations came with tight smiles and eyes that did not match their words. My mother immediately started questioning our timeline, suggesting it was awfully soon to be making such commitments. My father nodded along while my sister Jessica scrutinized the modest engagement ring I had chosen with Amanda because she preferred simple elegance over flashy jewelry. The first major conflict happened during a family dinner just 2 weeks after our engagement. My father casually asked about Amanda's family, only to make condescending remarks about her mother being just a secretary and growing up without a father figure. I saw the hurt flash across Amanda's face, and something inside me snapped. Her mother raised an incredible daughter while working multiple jobs. That takes more strength and character than anything I have ever seen. I said firmly, surprising, even myself with my boldness. The table went silent. My father looked shocked that I had challenged him. Amanda squeezed my hand under the table, and I knew I had done the right thing. Despite the tension, Amanda handled every interaction with my family with grace. She never complained, always tried to find common ground, and went out of her way to be respectful. Her patience only made me love her more, while simultaneously making me increasingly aware of how my family treated her. As wedding plans progressed, so did my family's attempts to control everything. My mother insisted on a grand church wedding despite knowing Amanda was not religious. My father pushed for a prenuptial agreement to protect family assets. Jessica continuously undermined Amanda's ideas and preferences. Through it all, I watched the woman I loved try to accommodate my family while slowly losing her natural joy. The ultimatum was forming in my mind long before I actually voiced it. Something would have to give, and I was beginning to realize it could not be Amanda. The wedding planning became a battleground. During one particularly tense meeting at my parents' house, my mother and sister criticized everything from Amanda's choice of flowers to her desire for a smaller, more intimate ceremony. Ivory roses. Really white is traditional for a reason, Amanda, my mother said, with a dismissive wave. And only 100 guests. What will people think? The Hendersons had 300 at their daughter's wedding last spring. Amanda tried to explain that we wanted a meaningful celebration rather than a society event, but her words fell on deaf ears. Later in the car, Amanda finally broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she apologized for not being able to please my family. It broke my heart to see her take responsibility for their cruelty. You have nothing to apologize for, I told her, wiping her tears away. They are the ones who should be sorry. The next day, my father invited me to his study for what he called a man-to-man talk. He slid a document across his mahogany desk. Just a standard prenuptial agreement, he said casually. Nothing personal against Amanda, but we need to protect what generations of our family have built. I left the document untouched on his desk. Amanda is not after our money, Dad. She has never once asked about my income or family wealth. He chuckled. Son, that is exactly what they want you to think. The comment made my stomach turn. I left without another word. Things escalated further when Amanda began receiving anonymous text messages, suggesting I was only with her out of pity or as some act of rebellion against my family. One night, devastated by a particularly cruel message, she showed me her phone with trembling hands. After some investigation, I discovered the texts were coming from my cousin Brittany, who admitted under pressure that Jessica had put her up to it. My sister had convinced her that she was helping save me from a terrible mistake. The Sunday family dinners became increasingly unbearable. My mother would ask Jessica detailed questions about her work and social life while barely acknowledging Amanda's presence. When Amanda would try to join the conversation, someone would inevitably interrupt or change the subject. Then came the incident that I now recognize as the point of no return. During a dinner celebrating my father's birthday, my mother accidentally spilled a full glass of red wine on Amanda's cream-colored dress. What made my blood boil was not the spill itself, but the brief smirk I caught on my mother's face before she launched into exaggerated apologies. Amanda excused herself to clean up, and I followed her to the bathroom. Through the door, I heard her quiet sobs. Something hardened inside me that night. 6 months into our marriage, Amanda shared the news that she was pregnant. I was ecstatic, imagining building the loving family I had never truly had. We decided to tell my parents and sister during another Sunday dinner, hoping the news of their first grandchild would soften their hearts. Instead, my sister scoffed and muttered something about trapping you for good now. My father remained silent while my mother forced a smile that never reached her eyes. Are you certain it is yours? My father finally asked, his voice low but clear enough for Amanda to hear. Amanda gasped. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. How dare you, I whispered, shocked that even he would go so far. The weeks that followed were some of the darkest of my life. I could not sleep, lost weight from stress, and found myself jumping every time my phone rang with my family's number. Amanda, despite being in the early stages of pregnancy with all its discomforts, worried more about me than herself. Maybe I could try harder with them, she suggested one night, her hand protectively over her still flat stomach. Maybe if they see how much I love you. Her selflessness in the face of such cruelty made my decision clear. My family would never accept her, and I could no longer subject the woman I loved to their abuse. The final straw came during a family gathering where relatives from both sides of the family were present. My father stood up to make an announcement, champagne glass in hand. As you all know, family legacy is important to us. He began looking directly at me. Today, I have finalized changes to our family trust. Any grandchildren from proper marriages will be included. However, any from temporary arrangements will not have access to family funds unless certain corrections are made. The message was clear. My unborn child would be disinherited unless I divorced Amanda. Looking at Amanda's pale face, I took her hand, stood up without a word, and walked out. We never looked back. The next morning, I drove alone to my parents' house, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I needed to confront them without Amanda present, to speak freely without worrying about protecting her feelings. When I arrived, I found not just my parents but Jessica, as well as if they had anticipated this confrontation and formed a united front. We gathered in my father's study, the room where important family decisions had always been made. "Your behavior yesterday was embarrassing," my father began before I could speak. "Walking out during a family gathering like that. What will people think?" "I do not care what people think anymore," I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. "What I care about is how you have treated Amanda from day one. The constant criticism, the backhanded comments, the deliberate exclusion." My mother's eyes welled with tears, a tactic I had seen her use countless times to redirect attention. "We have only ever wanted what is best for you, Karl. We raised you to make smart decisions. Marrying Amanda was the smartest decision I have ever made," I countered. "She is kind, loving, hardworking, and makes me happier than I have ever been. None of you have made any effort to see that." Jessica jumped in, her voice sharp. "She has completely brainwashed you. The Karl we know would never speak to his family this way. She has turned you against us." I laughed bitterly. "No, Jessica. You have done that all by yourselves." One by one, I listed specific incidents. The wine spilling, the prenup, demand the anonymous texts, the trust fund threat. With each example, my father's expression grew more dismissive, my mother's tears more abundant, and my sister's anger more apparent. "We were protecting you," my father insisted. "You will come to your senses eventually." I took a deep breath, knowing what I had to say next would change everything. "I am giving you one chance," I said slowly. "Accept Amanda, as my wife apologized sincerely for how you have treated her, and welcome our child into this family without conditions. Or lose me completely." The silence that followed was deafening. My father finally broke it with a scoff. "You do not mean that. This is just a phase. When she leaves you or shows her true colors, you will come running back." That moment clarified everything. I stood up, removed my family ring from my finger, and placed it on his desk. "Goodbye," I said simply, and walked out. Over the next week, I changed my phone number, moved Amanda and myself to a new apartment in a different neighborhood, and returned every family heirloom I had been given over the years. I wrote one final email explaining my decision and asking them not to contact us again unless they were ready to make amends. Amanda, sweet as always, worried that I would regret my choice. "They are your family, Karl. Are you sure this is what you want? Maybe with time." I held her close, feeling our baby between us. "You and this baby are my family now." Sometimes, setting boundaries is not about pushing people away, but about creating a safe space for the people who truly matter. The months that followed were a mixture of grief and joy. I mourned the family I had lost while preparing for the one I was building. Amanda's pregnancy progressed beautifully, and we threw ourselves into creating a nursery and attending parenting classes. I began seeing a therapist who helped me recognize the toxic patterns I had grown up with and was determined not to repeat. I learned about emotional manipulation, controlling behavior, and how to build healthier relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. When Emily was born after 18 hours of labor, the hospital room filled with Amanda's family and our close friends. The absence of my parents and sister was palpable, but the love surrounding us was genuine. That night, I sent a birth announcement to my family with a photo of Emily receiving no response. Life with a newborn was challenging, but filled with more love than I had ever known. Amanda was a natural mother, and watching her with Emily healed parts of me I did not know were broken. I took extended paternity leave, wanting to be present for every moment. 6 months passed in a blur of sleepless nights, first smiles, and countless diapers. We established new traditions with Amanda's mother and our chosen family of close friends. Slowly, the sharp pain of my family's absence dulled to an occasional ache. Then came that Saturday morning. Emily had just gone down for her nap when the doorbell rang. Opening it without checking first, I found myself face to face with my mother. She looked smaller. Somehow, her perfectly dyed hair now showing strands of gray, her face lined with what looked like a year's worth of new wrinkles. But what struck me most were her red-rimmed eyes and the way her hands trembled as she clutched her purse. "Karl," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I need to see you. Please." My first instinct was to close the door. After all this time, all the pain seeing her standing there brought back a flood of emotions I had worked hard to process. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice low to avoid waking Emily. "I had to come," my mother said, tears streaming freely down her face. "I cannot take it anymore. I miss you. I have a granddaughter I have never met. Please, Karl, 5 minutes is all I ask." I hesitated then, stepped aside to let her in. Amanda was visiting her mother for the day, giving me space to handle this unexpected reunion on my own terms. My mother sat nervously on the edge of our couch, looking around at the family photos that covered our walls. Photos of a family that she was not part of. "Your father and Jessica do not know I am here," she admitted. They still think you will come around eventually." "And you?" I asked. She sighed deeply. "I started therapy 6 months ago. My therapist helped me see how controlling we have been, how we put appearances above your happiness. I am not saying I understand everything yet, but I am trying." I sat across from her, maintaining distance, both physical and emotional. "Why now, I saw a mother with her baby in the park last week," she said, her voice breaking. "The way she looked at that child. I realized I might never experience that with Emily, that I might never see you again. And for what pride family image?" She shook her head. "It is not worth it, Karl." I remained silent, processing her words, looking for signs of the manipulation I had grown up with. "I'm not asking you to forgive me right away," she continued. "I know I have a lot to make up for. I just want a chance to try. To meet my granddaughter. To get to know the woman you chose as your wife, really know her this time. Amanda has been hurt deeply by this family," I said firmly. "I will not expose her, or Emily, to more pain." My mother nodded, wiping her tears. "I understand. I would start with whatever boundaries you set. I do not want to die knowing I threw away my relationship with my son because I was too stubborn to admit I was wrong." Something in her voice sounded different from the mother I knew. There was a humility I had never heard before. After a long conversation establishing clear ground rules, I agreed to introduce her to Emily when she woke from her nap. The moment my mother laid eyes on her granddaughter, something shifted. The carefully maintained facade she had worn my entire life crumbled completely. When Amanda returned home later that day, she was understandably wary. But true to her generous nature, she gave my mother a chance, accepting her tearful apology with grace I could never have mustered in her position. "I judged you without knowing you," my mother told Amanda. "I was so focused on what I thought was best for Karl that I never considered what actually makes him happy. Seeing you together now with your beautiful daughter, I can see how wrong I was." Over the following months, my mother visited regularly, always respectful of our boundaries. She brought no gifts beyond what we approved, never criticized our parenting choices, and made genuine efforts to know Amanda as a person. The real test came 3 months after her first visit, when my father demanded she stop seeing us. "You choose," he apparently told her, "them or us." It was the same ultimatum I had faced a year earlier. This time she chose differently. "I am not losing my son and granddaughter again," she told him, according to her tearful recounting of the event. "If you want to remain part of my life, you need to accept them." My father and Jessica remained unmoved. For the first time in their 40-year marriage, my parents began living separately. My mother moved into a small apartment near us, starting a new chapter of her life, focused on building a relationship with her granddaughter. The first holiday we spent with my mother present was both healing and bittersweet. The absence of my father and sister hung in the air, but the genuine laughter and love we shared created new memories to replace the painful ones. As Emily's first birthday approached, I reflected on the tumultuous journey of the past 2 years. Choosing Amanda over my toxic family had been the most difficult decision of my life. But watching my daughter grow in an environment of unconditional love confirmed it was the right one. My mother continues her therapy, working through decades of harmful patterns. Some days are better than others, and trust rebuilds slowly. Amanda, with her extraordinary capacity for forgiveness, has formed a cautious friendship with her. They will never be best friends, but there is respect between them now. As for my father and sister, The door remains conditionally open. Should they ever truly recognize the harm they caused and show genuine remorse, we would consider careful reconciliation with appropriate boundaries. I no longer hold my breath, waiting for that day, but neither do I close my heart to the possibility. The most valuable lesson I have learned is that family is not defined by blood, but by love, respect, and mutual support. By choosing Amanda, I did not just reject toxicity, I embraced healing not only for myself but for generations to come. My daughter will grow up understanding that her worth is not tied to appearances or others' expectations, but to the kindness and authenticity she brings to the world. In the end, sometimes losing family means finding yourself, and in that discovery building something far more precious than what you left behind. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have cut ties with toxic family members or tried to make it work? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories. Share this with someone who might need to hear that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the greatest peace. Thank you for listening. And remember, the family you choose can be stronger than the family you were born into.